Good evening, or good morning, good noon, or good midnight, whenever and wherever you're watching this. Welcome to the Sunday Poem. Today, it's a poem by a US-American author that I don't think I have to introduce to you, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Though having been criticized here and there for imitating European styles and writing poetry that was too sentimental, he nevertheless became the most popular American poet of his time. And he was even very successful overseas. His works are still quite well known today, but I'm not so sure whether you know about this little anecdote and a little falling out that Longfellow had with a fellow writer and literary critic, who at first wrote about his, quote, fervent admiration that Longfellow's, quote, genius has inspired in him. Later, this author even called Longfellow unquestionably the best poet in America. The tables turned after a while, and suddenly this author called Longfellow a determined imitator and a dexterous adapter of the ideas of other people, specifically of Alfred Lord Tennyson. And this led to something called the Longfellow War. It is rumored that these accusations may have been a public stunt to boost the readership of the Broadway Journal, for which this author was the editor at the time. Longfellow did not publicly address this, but after this author's death, he wrote, "The harshness of his criticisms I have never attributed to anything but the irritation of a sensitive nature chafed by some indefinite sense of wrong." Who was this author? None other than Edgar Allan Poe. Let's get to today's poem, though. A lot of Longfellow's work is recognized for its melodious musicality. And Longfellow himself wrote once, "What a writer asks of his reader is not so much to like as to listen." Maybe you can hear a melody in The Village Blacksmith by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Under a spreading chestnut tree, the village smithy stands. The smith, a mighty man is he, with large and sinewy hands, and the muscles of his brawny arms are strong as iron bands. His hair is crisp and black and long, his face is like the tan, his brow is wet with honest sweat. He earns whate'er he can, and looks the whole world in the face, for he owes not any man. Week in, week out, from morn till night, you can hear his bellows blow. You can hear him swing his heavy sledge, with measured beat and slow, like a sexton ringing the village bell when the evening sun is low. And children coming home from school look in at the open door. They love to see the flaming forge and hear the bellows roar and catch the burning sparks that fly like chaff from a threshing floor. He goes on Sunday to the church and sits among his boys. He hears the parson pray and preach. He hears his daughter's voice singing in the village choir, and it makes his heart rejoice. It sounds to him like her mother's voice, singing in paradise. He needs must think of her once more, how in the grave she lies, and with his hard, rough hand he wipes a tear out of his eyes. Toiling, rejoicing, sorrowing, onward through life he goes. Each morning sees some task begin, each evening sees it close. Something attempted, something done, has earned a night's repose. Thanks, thanks to thee, my worthy friend, for the lesson thou hast taught. Thus, at the flaming forge of life, our fortunes must be wrought. Thus, on its sounding anvil shaped, each burning deed and thought.